Evan woke up to cold metal under his cheek. His head hurt, his vision spun, and for a moment he could not tell if he was alive or dreaming. When he tried to sit up, his hands pulled against something tight. Metal cuffs, chains, panic pushed through his chest as he looked around and saw he was inside a cage made of thick silver bars. The room around him was dim, glowing blue from strange lights fixed into the walls. The air smelled sharp, like burnt metal and strange chemicals. He could hear alarms far in the distance, and deep booming sounds that did not belong to any human ship. He knew he was not home. He was not safe, and he was not alone. Evan crawled to the bars and tried to look out. He saw shadows moving behind. Foggy glass panels, long shadows, thin shadows. Shadows that did not look human at all. He tried to think back. What was the last thing he remembered? He recalled working on a mining station, checking the engines, talking with his team, and then a bright flash of light, a scream, his body floating. And then nothing. A cold voice echoed through the room, speaking in a strange alien language. It made the hair on his arms rise. Footsteps followed, heavy, slow, and firm, each step making the metal floor ring. The door slid open with a sharp hiss. 3 figures entered. The first was tall and broad, with dark green skin and ridges down his jaw. His eyes glowed faint yellow, sharp like a predator's. He wore armor that looked ceremonial, decorated with symbols Evan did not understand. When he spoke, his voice was deep and full of pride. This was Lord Zal, leader of a Varuan family known for strength, wealth, and cruelty. The second figure was smaller, younger, a teenage version of the first. The son, Rek. He smirked at Evan like he was looking at a toy that he planned to break. But the third figure made Evan pause. She stepped in slowly, her movements soft and calm. She had lighter skin than the others, almost pale with a faint golden glow. Her eyes were gentle, not harsh like Zale's. Her hair fell in smooth silver waves. She did not look at Evan like he was an object. She looked at him as if she recognized something familiar in him. This was Lady Mira, Zale's wife. Zale tapped on the cage with the end of his staff. "Human slave," he said in a thick accent, switching to rough but understandable English. "You belong to the House of Varuan now. You will work, you will obey, and you will not speak unless ordered." Evan felt his jaw clench, but he stayed quiet. He was chained, weak, alone on a ship full of aliens. A single wrong word could get him killed. Rex stepped closer and stared at Evan with cold eyes. "It is small," he said to his father. "Are all humans this weak?" Zal laughed. "Weak, yes, but useful. They fix machines. They survive harsh work." He looked back at Evan. "You will begin tomorrow." Myra had not spoken yet. She stood behind the 2 males, her hands folded, her face unreadable. But Evan noticed something strange. Her eyes were not just looking at him, they were examining him carefully, as if she was searching for something. Zal turned to leave, but Mira stayed for a second longer. Evan's heart pounded. Why was she still looking at him? Was she planning something? Was she dangerous like the others? Mira took one small step forward. Her voice was soft, almost like a whisper, and she spoke in the Varuan language. But somehow Evan understood her. The words slid into his mind like they were part of him. "I'm sorry." Evan froze. Why was she sorry? What did she know? What did she want? Before he could ask anything, the door opened again, and she quickly followed Zal out. The door slammed shut, leaving Evan alone in the cold blue light. The ship hummed around him. Metal groaned. Something huge shifted outside, maybe part of the engine or something even bigger. Evan pulled at the cuffs again, but they didn't budge. His throat tightened as the reality hit him hard. He was trapped on an alien ship. He had no weapons, no friends, no escape. But the strangest part was not the cage or the chains. It was the look in Mira's eyes. and the impossible fact that he understood. Her whisper, even though he did not know her language, something was very wrong on this ship, and Evan had no idea that his life and his heart were about to change forever. Evan's first morning on the Varuan ship began with a loud metallic clang. The cell door slid open, and a blast of cold air hit him as two armored guards pulled him out by the arms. He tried not to stumble, but his legs were weak from the night. The cuffs still burned against his skin. The halls of the ship were long and curved like the inside of some giant metal beast. Strange blue patterns pulsed on the walls, living veins carrying energy. The ship felt alive, humming with deep vibrations that echoed through his bones. The guards shoved him into a work area, a huge room filled with machines, tools, and glowing cables. Sparks danced in the air as alien drones welded plates onto the ship's hull. Everything looked advanced yet brutal, built for battle, not for comfort. Lord Zal stood in the center, holding a rod that glowed red at the tip. He pointed at a broken generator on the floor. "Human," he ordered, "you fix this." Evan crouched beside the device, his hands shaking a bit. He didn't understand Varuan technology, but he recognized some familiar pieces, coils, stabilizers, a damaged energy core. Maybe he could fix it enough to stay alive. Rex stood nearby, arms crossed, watching Evan with a cruel grin. "If Key breaks it," Rex said, "can I shock him?" "Only if he fails," Zal answered with a smirk. Evan forced himself to breathe slowly. He worked carefully, using tools that felt too heavy for human hands. Every mistake could mean pain. Real pain. He remembered the red rod in Zal's hand and focused harder. Hours passed. Evan's back ached. Sweat dripped into his eyes. The generator flickered, sputtered, then finally hummed to life. Zal nodded once. "Good. Humans are useful." He turned away. Rex scowled, clearly disappointed he didn't get to hurt Evan. The guards dragged Evan to a corner and chained him to a pipe while they worked elsewhere. Evan leaned against the cold metal and tried to rest. Machines roared around him, drowning out his thoughts. Every breath burned. He wondered how long he could survive this. Then something unexpected happened. Soft shadow moved beside him. When Evan opened his eyes, Lady Mira stood there holding a small silver container. She looked around to make sure no one was watching, then handed it to him. "Drink," she whispered. Evan hesitated. Was it safe? Poisoned? A test? But her eyes were kind, not sharp like Zal's. When Evan drank, the liquid was cool and sweet. It washed away the dryness in his throat, easing some pain. "Thank you," he said quietly. Mira glanced toward the guards. "Do not speak too loudly," she murmured. "My husband does not like when I help slaves." Evan lowered his voice. "Why are you helping me?" Mira did not answer at first. She looked at his chains, then at his tired face. Her expressions were small, but full of meaning: sadness, sympathy. "Maybe guilt. You remind me," she whispered, "of something I lost long ago." Before Evan could ask what she meant, footsteps echoed through the room. Mira quickly stepped back, face calm again, just as Zal entered. Zal did not see the container in Evan's hands, but Rek did. "What is that?" Rek demanded. Evan froze. Mira spoke smoothly, before Evan could. "A cleaning gel. I dropped it." He picked it up. Rek glared but said nothing. Zal swept past without caring. Myra's small eye saved Evan from punishment, but it left him wondering even more about her. Who was she really? Why did she look at him like she knew him? The rest of the day was worse. Evan was forced to carry heavy crates that felt like they weighed as much as a small car. He repaired leaking pipes, sealed broken vents, and cleaned areas filled with toxic dust that stung his skin. Zal did not treat him like a person, only a tool. Rek pushed him, insulted him, and once even tripped him, laughing when Evan hit the floor hard. The guards did nothing. Evan tasted blood but stayed silent. Talking back would only get him hurt. By the time the work shift ended, Evan felt like he would collapse. The guards dragged him back to his cell. The door slammed shut. Darkness filled the tiny space. Evan curled against the wall, exhausted. His arms trembled. His throat burned. But he could not stop thinking about Mira. The soft way she spoke. The sadness in her eyes. The way he could somehow understand her whispers. There was something wrong inside this family. Something hidden and dangerous. And for the first time since being captured, Evan felt a tiny spark of curiosity and fear. Why did Myra keep watching him? Why did she seem different from Zal and Rek? And what secret was she hiding beneath those gentle eyes? Evan did not know the answers yet, but he would soon learn that Mira's secrets were deeper, darker, and more human than he could ever imagine. Evan did not sleep well that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Myra's face, the worry in her eyes, the quiet sadness she tried to hide. He also saw the harsh glow of Zal's weapon, the smirk on Rek's face, the endless metal. Halls, the Varuan ship felt like a cage inside a cage. Even when Evan was outside his cell, he was still trapped. The next morning came too fast. Guards pulled him out, pushed him down the hall, and threw him back into the harsh workroom. He expected more repairs, more cruel orders, more insults. And he was right. But something new happened too. While he worked on a cracked water pipe, he felt someone watching him. He looked up and saw Mira standing far across the room, near a control panel. Her posture was calm, but her eyes were fixed on him with quiet intensity. She didn't move, didn't speak, didn't show emotion, but something about her stare made Evan pause. A moment later, she walked away without a word. Later that day, Evan carried heavy parts through a side corridor. The guards had moved to another area for a moment, leaving him alone. He took a slow breath, letting his arms rest for a few seconds. Then he heard footsteps, light ones. He turned. Mira stood behind him. Her silver hair glowed under the soft lights. Her hands were folded neatly, but her eyes were not calm. They were full of fear. "Do not speak loudly," she whispered. Evan nodded. "What do you want from me?" She glanced up and down the hall to make sure no one else was near. "You collapsed yesterday," she said softly. "You pushed yourself too hard." "I didn't have a choice," Evan said. "Zal," she raised a hand quickly, stopping him. "Say nothing of him here." Her voice trembled slightly. Mira always looked graceful, calm, elegant, but now Evan saw the cracks. She was scared. Truly scared. Evan lowered his voice. "Why are you helping me, Mira?" For a long moment, she didn't answer. She stared at the floor as if fighting with herself. Then she slowly reached for the side of her shirt and pulled the fabric slightly aside. Evan's eyes widened. On her shoulder was a mark of faint, glowing pattern that looked almost human, not Varuan. Not like Zal or Rek. The glow was soft and warm, like something alive. Mira covered it again quickly. "I am not full Varuan," she admitted in a shaky whisper. "My mother was human." Evan froze, his breath caught in his throat. That explained her gentler features, her calm voice, her sad eyes, and why Evan understood her whispered words, even though he didn't know the language. "You're half human," he murmured. Myra nodded. "Yes, a secret that must never be spoken. If the Varuan Council knew, they would destroy me. And if Zal knew my power is waking, he would." She stopped. Her voice tightened. "He would not allow me to live." Evan stared at her, shocked. "Power?" She looked down at her hands. "I feel emotions more strongly than Varuan do, and I can share those emotions. In small ways. Humans called it empathy resonance. My mother passed it to me. So when you whispered to me, you heard it the way I felt it." Mira finished his sentence gently. "This ship is full of anger and violence, but you. When I look at you, I sense hope. I have not felt that in many years. Evan swallowed hard. His heart pounded. Does Zal know? No. Her voice grew tense. He thinks I am weak, quiet, and obedient. That is safer for me, but lately, he has started watching me more closely. She looked away, her hands trembling slightly. I am afraid he suspects something. Evan stepped closer, forgetting for a moment that he was just a slave. Why tell me this? Mira's eyes lifted to his. For the first time, Evan saw emotion there, deep and real. Because you are the first person to look at me as if I am not broken, she whispered. And because I believe you are in danger, more than you know. Evan's chest tightened. Danger from what? Before she could answer, the hallway lights flashed red. A sharp alarm blared through the ship. Heavy boots thundered down the corridor. Mira's eyes widened in fear. The guards are coming. I should not be here. She stepped back quickly, but before turning away, she whispered one last thing, words filled with fear and warning. They will send you on a mission. Soon, a deadly one. You must survive it. If you die, I die too. Evan had no idea what that meant, but before he could ask, she vanished into another corridor just as Zal's guards rounded the corner. They grabbed Evan, shouting commands, dragging him back to the work area. He said nothing, but Mira's words echoed in his mind. Half-human, empathy powers, hidden danger. Deadly mission. Evan now knew one thing for certain. Mira was not just a kind stranger, she was a secret in chains, and her fate was somehow tied to his. The next 2 days felt heavier than all the days before. Evan worked from dawn to dusk, fixing pipes, carrying crates, repairing strange engines that hummed like living creatures. Zal pushed him harder, shouting orders without mercy. Rek mocked him at every chance, waiting for Evan to fall so he could laugh. But Mira stayed distant. She passed him sometimes in the work halls, but did not stop, did not speak, did not even look at him too long. Her face was calm, almost empty, but her eyes held fear that Evan could feel even without her saying a word. Evan knew something was coming. He just didn't know what. On the third morning, Zal summoned him with a sharp command. Human, follow. Evan's stomach twisted. He saw Rek standing beside his father, wearing battle armor. That alone told Evan the situation was serious. Soldiers waited near a shuttle bay. Strange weapons glowed on their arms. Zal walked toward a wide window that revealed a huge broken structure floating in space like a metal skeleton. It was a mining station, shattered, cracked, leaking debris. Electric storms flashed around it, as if the whole place were ready to explode. Zia pointed to it. You will enter that station, he said. You will retrieve the core crystals inside. They are valuable. We need them. Evan stared at the dying station, shock rising in his throat. That place is collapsing. I'll die in there. Zal's expression was cold. Then do not fail. Rek stepped forward, smiling with sick pleasure. If the human dies, we lose nothing. Mira stood behind them. Her face was pale, her hands clenched tight. She could not speak, not in public, but her eyes screamed a warning. Evan understood. This mission wasn't just dangerous, it was designed to kill him. Minutes later, Evan found himself in a small shuttle with 2 guards. They strapped a breathing mask on him and shoved a heavy toolkit into his hands. The shuttle shook violently as it flew toward the falling station. Through the window, Evan watched the once great structure twist and crumble. Metal beams broke off and floated away. Bright sparks shot out of broken power lines. The whole place trembled like it was taking its last breath. The shuttle docked with a loud clang. A door opened with a hiss. Go, a guard ordered, pushing Evan out. He stepped inside the mining station. The air smelled of burning wires and old dust. The lights flickered weakly, casting long, trembling shadows. The floor shook under him. Every few seconds, The walls groaned like a creature in pain. Evan swallowed hard. Great. A giant metal tomb. He followed the narrow hallway, holding his toolkit tight. Pipes dripped glowing liquid. Broken screens blinked with static. The deeper he went, the stronger the vibrations became. He needed to find the crystal vault. Fast dot suddenly. His earpiece buzzed. A soft voice, almost a whisper, spoke into his mind. Evan, can you hear me? Myra. Evan froze. Myra, how? I found a hidden communication channel, she whispered. Zal does not know. Listen to me carefully. You must move quickly. The station will collapse soon. Evan took a shaky breath. Are you watching me? Yes, she said softly. I stole access to an old satellite camera. I can see you. Evan felt a strange warmth in his chest. Even trapped on that ship, Myra found a way to help him. She guided him through the broken halls. Turn left. There is a clear path. Step over that pipe. It is unstable. Do not touch the glowing liquid. It will burn through your skin. Evan followed her instructions, trusting her fully. The station shook again, stronger than before. A ceiling panel crashed behind him, missing him by inches. Hurry, Myra urged, her voice shaking. The main core room is close. Evan reached a large doorway half buried under fallen metal. He squeezed inside and saw the crystal vault glowing. Blue, sitting inside a cracked machine. He rushed to it, opened his toolkit, and worked as fast as he could. Sparks flew. The machine sizzled. His hands trembled, but he kept going, following Myra's calm instructions through the earpiece. Finally, the crystals came loose. He grabbed them, placing them in the container. Done! He shouted, but the floor suddenly tilted. The whole room groaned. A large explosion boomed from somewhere far below. Myra's voice became frantic. Evan, get out now. The station is breaking apart. Evan ran. The halls shook violently. Beams fell. Fire burst from broken pipes. The world around him collapsed as he sprinted toward the exit. He reached the docking area just as the floor split behind him. He jumped into the shuttle and hit the door button. It closed with a slam dot. The shuttle launched away at full speed, just as the mining station exploded into fragments of blue fire. Evan fell back in the seat, panting hard, clutching the container of crystals. He knew he survived because of Myra, but he also knew something else. Zal had wanted him dead, and now Evan understood just how dangerous this family truly was. The moment the shuttle returned, Evan felt the change in the air. The guards looked surprised that he was still alive. Rek looked annoyed. Zal looked angry, not openly, but in the tight, sharp way his jaw moved. Evan had survived something. He was not meant to survive. 2 guards dragged him out of the shuttle. His arms shook with exhaustion, his clothes were burned, and dust covered his whole body. But he walked on his own feet. He carried the container of crystals. And he kept his head up. Zia, A.L. snatched the container from his hands. How did you live? He demanded. Evan wiped the sweat from his forehead. I fixed your mess faster than you expected. Rek stepped forward and shoved him hard. Show respect, slave. Evan stumbled but did not fall. Something inside him, some quiet strength, burned hotter than before. Zal examined the crystals, still breathing heavy with annoyance. You did well, he said, almost through his teeth. You will continue working. Evan could tell the words cost Zal more than the mission itself. A human slave had survived a death trap. That made Zal look weak, but Evan also noticed something else. Myra was standing behind them. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of relief. She held her hands together tightly, almost shaking. She looked away quickly before anyone noticed. Evan saw it anyway. Later that day, Evan returned to the work area. His legs barely worked. His muscles screamed. But Zal did not care. He made Evan repair a heavy lift system. Rex stayed close, watching him like a hawk, almost waiting for Evan to collapse so he could mock him. But Evan didn't collapse. Rex grew impatient. He picked up a metal rod and tapped it loudly against the floor. "Do you know what I think?" he said loudly. "I think you cheated. I think you hid somewhere in the station until the explosion was over." Evan ignored him. He tightened a bolt on the lift machine. Rex stepped closer. "Look at me when I speak, human." Evan didn't move. He didn't have the strength to fight, but he had enough strength to not bow. Rex's face twisted with rage. He swung the metal rod. Evan tried to dodge, but he was too slow. The rod hit him in the back, hard. Pain exploded through Evan's spine. He gasped, dropping his tool. Rex swung again and again. Evan fell to his knees, arms shaking, vision blurring. "Rex! Stop!" Myra's voice cut through the room. Like sharp wind, both Evan and Rex froze. Myra hurried forward, face filled with fear. "Your father said not to damage the slave. He is useful for repairs." Rex's eyes narrowed. "You care too much about this human." Myra forced her face to remain still. "I care about the ship. Nothing more." Her voice was steady, but inside, Evan could feel her worry. The empathy power she carried seemed to reach him again, soft and warm. Rex gritted his teeth. He wanted to fight more, but he feared Zale's anger. He threw the rod on the ground. "Fine, the human can live another day." Rex stormed out. Myra knelt beside Evan immediately. She did not touch him, she couldn't, but she whispered softly, "Are you hurt badly?" Evan winced, holding his ribs. "Nothing broken, I'll survive." Myra let out a slow breath. "You should not provoke him." "I didn't," Evan said. "He just hates me for existing." Myra lowered her eyes. "Rex hates anything that reminds him of weakness." Evan looked at her carefully. "Does he hate you too?" She did not answer. She didn't have to. Her silence said enough. That night, Evan sat in his cell, his back throbbing with pain. But something new stirred inside him. Not fear, not defeat. Anger. For the first time since he was captured, Evan didn't feel like prey. He felt like someone ready to fight even if he didn't know how yet. He thought of Myra's warning words. He thought of the pain Rex caused for no reason. He thought of Zal sending him to die. And something in him hardened. He wasn't going to stay a slave forever. He wasn't going to die on this ship, and he wasn't going to let Myra suffer alone. A whisper slid into his mind. The same voice he heard on the station. "You are stronger than they believe." Evan didn't know if it was Myra using her power or simply his own thoughts, but it felt real. He closed his eyes, breathing in the cold air of the cell. A spark had started. A spark of rebellion. And once a spark started burning, it could grow into something unstoppable. Evan spent the next days working with silent determination. He kept his head down, spoke little, and watched everything. Every door, every hallway, every guard pattern. He memorized the ship's layout piece by piece. He knew he had to escape, not just for himself, but for Myra. Myra grew more nervous each day. She avoided long looks, avoided speaking, avoided being seen near him. But even in her silence, Evan felt her fear. Her empathy power made it impossible to hide. When she passed by, her emotions brushed against him like trembling shadows. Zal, meanwhile, had become harsher. His eyes followed Myra more closely. His orders were sharper. His voice colder. Evan felt tension growing inside the Veruan family. Like a storm about to burst. The night the storm finally broke started like any other. The guards dragged Evan to the cargo bay to fix a jammed loading rail. Sparks flew as he worked. The metal arm refused to move. He forced it open with all his strength, sweat dripping down his face. As he worked, Myra quietly slipped into the room, pretending to check inventory. She kept her voice low. "Tonight," she whispered without turning toward him. If we wait any longer, Zal will discover everything. Evan froze. His heart pounded. Tonight? Are you sure? Yes. Her voice trembled. I cannot hide my power much longer. He watches me every hour. If he learns I helped you survive the mission, he will kill me. Evan swallowed hard. What's the plan? Mira stepped closer, eyes darting around to ensure no one was watching. I will unlock the east corridor at shift change. The guards switch positions then. You must meet me near the navigation room. There's an escape pod. Old, but still functional. Evan nodded. I'll be there. Mira turned to leave, but hesitated. Softly, almost in pain, she whispered. Please don't fail. Evan's chest tightened. I won't. Hours passed like years. Evan returned to his cell, but he did not rest. He sat with his back against the wall, watching the door, feeling the ship hum with life around him. Finally, the overhead lights dimmed the signal. For the night shift, this was it. The door clicked. Not opened by guards. Opened by Myra. She stepped inside, her breath quick and shallow. Hurry, Evan slipped out, his heart pounding. Together, they moved. Down the hall, keeping to the shadows. Mira walked with tense grace, silent but alert. Evan stayed at her side, ready to shield her if needed. But as they turned a corner, Mira stopped suddenly. Rex stood there. His eyes widened, but not with surprise. With triumph, so Rex said, stepping forward slowly. I knew you were helping the human. Mira's face went pale. Evan felt her fear slam into him like cold wind. Rex tapped his wrist communicator. Father will want to hear this. Rex, please, Mira whispered. You don't understand. I understand enough, Rex snapped. You're a traitor. He reached for his weapon. Evan acted before thinking. He lunged. Rex swung the weapon, but Evan grabbed his arm. The two crashed into the wall, struggling. Rex was stronger, but Evan was desperate. He used all his weight, tackling Rex to the ground. The weapon slid away, clattering across the floor. Rex snarled, grabbing Evan's throat. Evan gasped for air, vision blurring. Mira grabbed Rex's arm, trying to pull him off. Stop! She cried. Rex shoved her away so hard she hit the wall with a sharp gasp. That was enough. Evan twisted, slamming his elbow into Rex's jaw. Rex staggered. Evan pushed him off and smashed his fist into Rex's stomach. Rex collapsed to the floor. Gasping. There was no time. Myra grabbed Evan's hand. Run! They sprinted through the corridor. Behind them, Rex shouted into his communicator. Father! They're escaping! Sirens blared. Red lights flashed. The ship roared with alarm. Soldiers poured out of doors. Evan and Mira darted past them, dodging shots. Mira guided him with quick whispers. This way. Left, through that door. They burst into the navigation hall. The escape pod sat in the corner, rusty old, but real. Evan slammed the door controls. Mira entered the launch code with shaking hands, but the door behind them slid open. Zal stood there, eyes burning, weapon raised, face full of betrayal and hate. Mira, he growled. You shame my house. Mira stepped in front of Evan, shielding him with her body. I will not let you hurt him. Zal's eyes widened in rage. You dare defy me? He aimed his weapon. Evan grabbed Myra's hand and pulled her into the pod. He hit the launch button. A blast door slammed shut between them and Zal. Zal's enraged scream echoed through the metal as the pod shot into space. The ship shrank behind them, alarms still flashing through its windows. Mira collapsed into the seat, trembling. Evan sat beside her, breathless, heart racing. They had escaped, but the cost and the danger had only just begun. The escape pod drifted through the dark silence of space, spinning slowly as if unsure where to go. The small cabin shook from the force of launch, and alarms blinked weakly on the cracked control screen. Evan and Mira sat strapped into their seats, breathing hard, bodies trembling with leftover fear and adrenaline. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The stars outside looked endless, cold, bright, and empty. They were alone between worlds. Evan turned to Mira. Her silver hair fell over her face, and her hands shook in her lap. She wasn't crying, but her eyes held a deep sadness. A sadness that looked older than the stars around them. "Are you okay?" Evan asked gently. Mira took a slow breath. "I am alive," she whispered. "That is more than I expected." She closed her eyes. Evan felt a warm wave pass through him, her emotions brushing against him again. Fear, relief, and something else. Something gentle. He leaned closer. "Mira, I'm sorry you had to leave everything." Mira shook her head. "Everything I left was a prison. What I took with me is the only thing that matters." Evan stared at her, unsure what she meant. But the quiet between them felt warm, almost peaceful. Then the escape pod spun again, and the control panel buzzed. Mira frowned. "The pod is losing power," she said. "We cannot survive long in this." Evan studied the blinking screen. "It has a distress beacon, right?" "Yes, but the signal is weak. It might not reach anyone." Evan tried adjusting the controls. Sparks flew from the panel. The pod shook harder. Mira gripped the seat. "If no one finds us," he finished her sentence softly, "we'll just be floating out here together." She looked at him, surprised, maybe even touched. But before she could speak, a loud beeping filled the cabin, a signal, a strong one. Evan's eyes widened. "Someone's picking up the beacon." Mira leaned forward, staring at the radar. A large ship appeared on the reading, fast, powerful, moving toward them. "Human," she whispered. "It is a human ship." Evan's heart leapt. He pressed the response button. "This is Evan Hawley from Mining Station 47. I have a civilian with me requesting rescue." Static answered. Then a clear voice. "Evan Hawley, we hear you. Hold position. Rescue team incoming." Mira covered her mouth, emotions overwhelming her. Evan felt her relief wash over him like a warm wave. For the first time since he woke in that alien cage, hope felt real. Minutes later, a bright white shuttle approached their pod. The door opened with a soft hiss. Human soldiers in clean armor reached out and helped Mira and Evan climb inside. One soldier's eyes widened when he saw Mira. "Is she?" Evan stepped forward quickly. "She's with me. She saved my life." The soldier nodded, not arguing. "Then she's under our protection." As the shuttle flew back toward the main ship, Mira stared out the window. "I never thought I would see humans again," she whispered. Evan smiled. "You're safe now." She touched her fingers lightly against her heart. Safe feels like a strange word. The human ship, the Horizon Star, welcomed them with warmth. Medical staff checked their injuries. Engineers cleaned the dust and burns from Evan's clothes. Mira was given a blanket, warm food, and gentle smiles. She walked through the ship slowly, touching the walls as if they were something magical. Evan followed close behind. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I'm dreaming," Mira said softly. "I never knew a place could feel peaceful." Evan noticed the way she breathed deeper, as if tasting freedom in the air. The captain met with them soon after. He asked Evan for a full report, then turned to Mira. "You're safe here," the captain said gently. "You're welcome to stay with us until we reach human territory. After that, we will help you find a new life." Mira looked at Evan first, as if asking silently whether she should trust these people. Evan nodded. She turned back to the captain. "Thank you," she whispered. A few days passed on the ship. Mira began to smile, more small, shy smiles that made Evan's chest warm. She watched stars through the windows, ate food she had never tasted before, and slowly let her shoulders relax. One evening, they walked together on an observation deck. Soft lights glowed on the floor, and the stars stretched across the glass ceiling like a river of silver. Mira stopped near the window, her eyes glowing faintly. For so long, I lived in fear, she said. Every day I was watched, controlled, blamed. But now, Evan stepped beside her. Now you're free. She looked at him, really looked at him, with gentle eyes that held both gratitude and something deeper. You were the first person to treat me like I mattered, she whispered. I will never forget that. Evan felt his heartbeat quicken. Mira, you're not alone anymore. She smiled, a soft, warm smile that lit her entire face. Neither are you, she said. Outside, a new sunrise began to rise over a distant planet. Inside, two souls, both once trapped, stood together, ready for a new life. A life built not from chains, but from hope.